Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. Listener discretion is advised. He's an unapologetic member of the KISS Army, and someday he will be regional manager. He can be heard daily on the syndicated Todd and Tyler radio empire. He's a standout comedian from the Midwest, consistently winning audiences over with his singular brand of righteous confusion. Fresh off of a recent roast by his friends Cameron Logsdon and Austin Anderson, Nick Allen joins me on the podcast today. We talk about his pathway to comedy, and we get a unique insight on what it is to be a comedian in Omaha, Nebraska, and explore the areas around it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Caught on the Mic. Ladies and gentlemen, from a town near and dear to my heart, Omaha, Nebraska, I have stand-up comic Nick Allen with me. You may have seen him on Last Comic Standing, heard him on the Todd and Tyler radio empire, bought his live release, Alive 22, or maybe you saw his roast online featuring past podcast guests Cameron Logsdon and Austin Anderson. Nick, how the hell are you, man?
What's up, Mike? Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you for being here. So, Alive 22, definitely a nod to KISS. Tell me a little bit about your KISS fandom.
I've been obsessed with them ever since I found out they existed. I was, as soon as I saw the tape, man, I was in middle school, and the house we were living at, had these big storage units, in the laundry room. You're a kid, you're just fucking around with no time digging through mom's old shit. In this tape case, she had Alive 2 on cassette, and I pulled it out. All the painted faces are there, and I just, you see fucking God of Thunder and shit on the back. Yes. You're like, what the fuck are these guys doing? So I listened to it, and then it was good timing because that was just before they went on their reunion tour.
Oh, nice.
Just before they put the makeup back on. So my friends, I passed this time, had my friends listen to it. We all became obsessed with them, and then they were rolling through town and got to see it. It was October 23rd, 1996. We saw them on the reunion tour. And now they're going back through for what they say is the final tour, but you know how they are. It's probably
right.
Not. But we're going to go, the same dudes I went to see them with initially, we're going to go see them in Nashville 27 years to the day. It'll be October 23rd again. So, yeah, man, they're just stuck in my mind. And, I think it's really one of the reasons I do what I do now. Because you see dudes doing that for a living, up until that point, everybody works for a fucking bank or sells insurance, and these guys are just spitting blood out and shit. You're like, this is a thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was a kid, I think I was in 5th grade. I lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico. My daily obsession would be to get home from school, watch Dial MTV. That's how old I am. This is before Total Request Live. Watch Dial MTV, and I remember they had released Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. And so this was 1989, 88. And like I said, I was a 5th grader. And Let's Put the X in Sex was on, one of the post-makeup era songs.
Yeah.
So I went to a grocery store with my parents, and they used to have these little these little standees where cassettes were merchandise and such. I stole, as a 5th grader, a copy of Destroyer and Love Gun, and I played the shit out of those cassettes as a kid.
Yeah. Dude, that's got to have an effect on you.
Absolutely. It was a band worth stealing for,
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. And I'm sure if you asked your parents, they'd be like, nah.
Right.
You just had to have them. Yeah. There's nothing like them, man. I don't know. And I don't a lot of people will make fun of you for liking KISS, or there's people who are just fuck that band. And I could see that. They're like, what, do they just all makeup and costumes? You're like, yeah, of course. It's part of it. Right. I don't know. It's weird because sometimes I try to I'm usually not drawn to cheesy over the top shit, but for some reason I'm just fucking obsessed with that band.
No, I get that. I
know this is just audio, but if you could see the garage I'm in here, and you can see that I've got all the KISS posters all over the wall.
Yeah, that's dope, man. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, Jay-Z said it best. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. And that's what KISS has been, you know?
Yeah.
And they have been feeding the masses, and they will cease being cheesy when they cease making money. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. And you're absolutely right.
No.
Their holograms will probably go on tour long after Gene and Paul are dead.
Oh, and I'll go check it out. I'll be there, man. You know, the hologram, there was something about him. I can see why.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about you. Let's get into your origin story and how you made this pathway into stand-up comedy.
Yeah, I'm from Omaha. Right now, I live one zip code away from where I grew up, really. I grew up in zip code 68136, and I live in zip code 68137 now, you know,
nice.
Making big moves. But I'd always been, like, drawn to comedy. And like, my dad and I would watch Saturday Night Live growing up, and I was obsessed. I went as, like, Letterman when I was in middle school for Halloween. Just had this we'd gone to the Iowa State Fair. They've got a fan that has his face on it and shit. And then some friends of mine and I, just around like 2002, we did a public access show on this, like, Cox, you could just go in and they've got studios.
Yes.
So we did a public access show that was like trying to be a combination of like Letterman and Saturday Night Live. So like I would do the monologue and shit. And it still didn't occur to me like that I could do stand-up. I tell a friend of mine, or at least try it. A friend of mine was just like, have you ever thought about it? I was like, no, because I'm a fucking idiot. I was doing a monologue trying to be Letterman and like not realizing that I could try stand-up too. But my friend Ben Zinn, you might know him. He used to play in local bands. So yeah, Ben Zinn. He was like, have you ever thought about being a comedian? And I was like, no. But like then I was. And then I heard there were 2 albums. Mark Maron had his first 2 albums that were called Not Sold Out and Tickets Still Available. And I heard those. And I was like, man, if I could do anything that was like close to what he's doing, I should at least give it a shot.
Right. That's amazing. It's funny. Oh my gosh, that's a name I hadn't heard in years, was Ben Zinn. Like I used to jam with Ben Zinn back in the day when I was singing in 3QE and he was doing the dropless thing. And yeah. Yes. That's amazing.
I love Ben. We were talking about Austin Anderson. I actually met Austin for the first time at a dropless show.
That's awesome.
Yeah, back in high school.
Dropless used to cover Anti-Gravity Love Song by Incubus. And anytime they would cover that, I would pop up on stage and sing it for him.
Dude, I probably watched you do that and had no idea.
We have probably crossed paths more than we realize, actually, now that we're getting to talking about it. So going from there to here, kind of, let's talk a little bit about what that path looked like for you.
Well, it was different. It's like, I knew we did that. Then I had kids young. My wife and I were both 21 when our oldest was born. And so like, I didn't start doing stand-up until I had 2 kids.
Yeah.
And at that time, you're talking about the Dial MTV. It makes me sound old because they're like, right when I started doing stand-up, there was like 1 open mic in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Right.
That was you. If you weren't doing stand-up at Duffy's, you weren't doing stand-up. It was the only place to go. And then they just kept doing it, was able to work. There was a club downtown Omaha that's not around anymore. I was able to start there. There was literally like a sewer pipe over the stage and shit. And it was a perfect place just to like suck until I was lucky enough to start working at the Funny Bone here, and started going up on the radio like sporadically for a while, and then it was like every few months, and every month, and it was every week, and then they're like, you want to come up here every day? And I don't know. Things keep moving forward. It feels like it moves forward very slowly, and I'm not sure what the next like moving forward step is, but just what else am I going to do?
Right. Right. But that's kind of, I think that's the nature of all things with us being from the Midwest and us being from like the Omaha, Lincoln area. Arts are a really weird thing around here because our main source of attraction are bars and fucking restaurants. Like for the longest period of time, Omaha, Nebraska, and not a lot of people know this, was one of the largest test markets in the United States for bars and restaurants. And that's because ConAgra was located there. So that kind of limited what sources of entertainment were like. Yeah.
And Omaha stopped being a test market for at least fast food. Remember when they tested the Double Down in Omaha? They used to KFC's Double Down. That was the first place. But I think they stopped using Omaha as a test market for shit like that because Omaha would be on board with everything.
Right.
They're like, oh, you got this? We're game. And like, there's no like discerning taste for that. But it is. Yeah, as far as like doing live performance from here and stuff, and honestly, like it's harder for me to get people to show up to shows in Omaha if it's someplace other than the Funny Bone than it is any of these small towns. I have a lot better luck in Lincoln than Omaha too. I don't know if it's because there's more going on or people just figure you're going to be around or what, but it can be harder to get people to show up in your hometown than anywhere else.
I agree with that. I sometimes think that Omaha takes its homegrown talent for granted because I had the same experience with the band world. You know, I would go, I would claw and fight and like beg and plead people to come to shows at home, but I could go and play in Wichita, Kansas to a full venue and a really nice guarantee and be like, I'm making more money leaving town than I am in my own hometown.
Yeah.
Eventually I figured out the marketing to where I made Omaha work for me too before I stopped doing it.
We're going to talk about that off the podcast, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it is kind of weird, and especially nowadays, we're kind of living in this post-COVID world and a content creation-driven society. So how has that impacted you as a stand-up comic?
I don't know. I know I need to create more content, but I don't know how to do that. I'm kind of in a weird place. I love doing stand-up, but I hate self-promotion. A lot of the way, like once I'm in the room doing in front of a crowd telling jokes, I love that. But everything else is like I've got to be dragged along. Like I don't know. I don't like seeing my own face on shit. So even like putting up a video, being like, "Hey, I've got these couple shows coming up." I'm just like, it makes me like cringe putting that out there. But I realize that's part of it too. I don't know. I got to get in better shape. Like I've tried to film stuff before, then like my shirt's too tight and I've just got tits and shit. And I'm like, I can't put that out. People are like, oh, it looks okay. I'm like, no, like that's like a B cup. That's not cool. But I don't know. I've got to figure. I think a lot of it's just getting over that, realizing that it's part of the job. Like any job has shit that you don't want to do. Right. You just got to plow through it.
Right. I think there's a lot to be said with one format translating well to another, and sometimes one format doesn't translate well to another. So there are probably some comedians that are killing it on stage, but would be horrible TikTok content creators and vice versa. You know, I mean, we talk about our mutual friend Cameron. He's killing it as far as the viral shit goes right now. I mean, to the point where The Rock is commenting on his stuff.
It's insane. Yeah, and he's been on the Today Show and something. Cameron has like stand-up chops to back it up, though. A lot of people, at least some that come through the clubs and stuff, like there'll be a YouTube creator or TikTok personality or whatever that comes through and like won't have the chops. I just wonder how many times people will come out to see them. But then you've got comics that just crush, that don't, I don't need like, there's it's comic John Morgan. He plays, he's an Omaha favorite. He's got a bunch of places all over the country that love him, and he's been doing stand-up there for decades. But I don't think he has a TikTok page. But that dude, people will go back to see him the next time he's in town because he's a force on stage.
Right.
I don't know how to translate out how any of it fucking works. I don't know, man.
and to try avoid being flavor of the month, because I mean, I've seen it, you know, even promoting a podcast. It's like, I will watch other people's content and I will see their stuff get click after click after click. And then all of a sudden they're gone. And it's like, where the fuck did they go? It's a here today, gone tomorrow kind of thing.
Yeah. And I wonder how closely related that is to like a one-hit wonder. I don't even know if a one-hit wonder is a thing anymore, because like there's not even like big radio hits, but people used to give shit to one-hit wonders. And they're like, well, where's your hit? Like, oh, you only had one song that everybody knows the words to? Like, yeah, I did. Like most people don't get that.
But now everybody will go to Harrah's Stir Cove and pay top dollar to see that one hit wonder and pretend like they're into all of their deep cuts and shit. So everything comes around.
Yeah.
So how would you describe your brand of comedy, and who are some of your influences?
Cameron Logsdon actually kind of put it in perspective once, because sometimes it's harder to look at what you do. He said he described what I do as like righteous confusion. But it's like, how is this the thing? What's going on? Like that album, I had a lot of stuff about my kids that's on that Alive 22, and I kind of, I don't know, I emerged from COVID with like a lot of dark jokes and shit. So, not really dark, but kind of, you know, jokes about morbid shit or funerals, and I don't know. I'm working on the new stuff, and I'm not sure exactly what that's going to be. I just want to be funny. But I Norm Macdonald.
Yes.
Huge influence, Letterman.
You have a Norm Macdonald story, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Well, he would when I was on last Comic Standing. I don't even know. It was a long time ago. He was one of the judges.
Nice.
And I went out the show. You got like 3 minutes, and I could tell 30 seconds in that it wasn't going well. And I'm like, shit. And I was like, the other judges were Roseanne and one of the Wayans brothers. So I'm like, this is going to be brutal. But Norm was like my hero.
Right.
And he'd been kind of shitting on people. They had like this fake green room they built, and people had been coming back into the green room and being like, oh, Norm's brutal. He's really getting after people. And like, as I'm kind of eating it, I'm like, oh no, is this it? So if Norm tells me to stop, I'll stop. I respect the dude. I'll quit. It's done. Whatever. I'll be a realtor or some shit. But, yeah, they went after the set. They go through the judges and ask what they thought, and the other two, Roseanne and the Wayans, were like, "Yeah, the punchlines that match, whatever." And I was like, "Oh shit, here comes Norm," and Norm was just like, said the nicest shit. He's like, "I knew who you were right when you came out on stage, and I love you." He ended it just be like saying, you're authentic, and I love you, man. And I was like, oh shit. I'm like, all right, I know I'm not moving on, but fucking send me home. And like, that fueled me for like a decade.
Fuck yes. Yeah. So how did you end up building your relationship with Todd and Tyler and making appearances on Todd and Tyler's Radio Empire?
It started through the Funny Bone years ago. It wasn't that long after I'd been doing stand-up that where I was on, a local showcase show at the club that they wanted somebody to go up there and help promote it. So I went up there and we got along. And then it was, I don't know, probably 3-6 months after that, I was up again. Like there's a monthly thing. And then they're like, hey, keep coming up. And now I see those motherfuckers every morning at 6 a.m.
Yes.
Yeah, we have fun. I love them, man. I'm lucky because I used to kind of have shit jobs on purpose to try to like focus on this other shit. And I just there's never a day, there's a catwalk we take into the studio. And I consciously think about it sometimes because I've walked into work so many times and dreaded it. And there's never a morning where I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, we got to talk about farts for 4 hours again, man. And yeah, I love it too because we never know what it's going to be. Like, there's some themes of conversation that'll go through or change, but you really we know we're all going to be there. We're going to, try to make it funny, and who knows what that's going to look like, but we're going to have fun doing it.
You talked a little bit about how emerging from the COVID years, your act got a little bit dark. Some of your jokes and the stuff that you were writing in the era was a little bit dark. How do you feel like society at large changed and impacted what you did beforehand and how you do it now?
I don't know. It's a loaded question, man.
It is.
Society at large before. Yeah, I don't know. I think before, I'm kind of looking at everything. It's like I wanted to put whatever I was working on the album and then move on from it. And that, a lot of the album was it was personal. So I always figured that if you're doing stand-up, you don't want to be talking about the same stuff as everybody else or, be regurgitating the same topics or whatever. But I figured if it was about my life, then I know I'm not stealing from anybody else. And also, people could relate to it. In this, and then the new stuff, it just ended up, I don't know, talking about planning my own funeral and fucking how you're really old and shit. It's not about COVID, but there are some just, themes about, mortality and stuff. But I think as far as COVID or society affecting material, it's one thing. I think it's going to take a long time for people to really understand how COVID affected everything because everybody was so ready just to move on and get back that nobody really sat back and was like, what the fuck was that?
Oh my gosh, isn't that poignant? Because I wholeheartedly agree with that. I do a 1-minute video every day just because I have to feed the content engine to keep people checking out the fucking podcast. But
right.
But 2023 for me, if it's had any sort of theme, it's been about mortality. And I don't know why that is. And that's a really good poignant thought about, maybe nobody really dealt with things in the heat of shit happening, right?
Yeah, and I think it's still a subconscious thing that even if it's not top of mind, everybody went through that shit and everybody was separated and who's really around, who can we be around, there's morgue trucks and shit. I don't like talking about the pandemic, but it is just that's part of it. Nobody does, and it was never. You were so ready just to get back out to what life was.
Right. Right. And like you said, you had kids when you were younger, so they're older now. So that's almost like an exclamation point on top of everything. I know I've got teenagers right now, and it's like, fuck, man. Like, weren't they just like junior high kids or toddlers or shit like that? So
how old are they?
Like, I've got twin stepdaughters that are 16. My daughter is 16. And then I have a son that's 14. So I've got 3 girls that are the same exact age.
Damn. Right? 14-year-old dude is just like, hey.
Right. Totally.
Right.
It's like,
what'd you say? I'm not listening. Why'd you say that? What's this mean?
No shit. Yeah. And
you're running through the gamut.
Yes. So it's one of those things, you know, like
gauntlet.
That's why mortality is so top of mind. You're like looking at all of this all at the same time. I think in terms of comedy, society was in a really second guess everything place. Now I have a rule on my podcast. I don't talk about religion. I don't talk about politics. I don't want to piss anybody off.
All right, I'm out then.
but you know, it's weird that society is in such a sensitive place that there's absolutely no fucking middle ground. So you have to ask sometimes, is it okay to still be funny? Is it okay for people to like decipher the difference between a joke and when something is said out of malicious intent? I feel like comedy is at a really sensitive spot at large.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we like, you know, and not to bring up politics, but you know, Nixon used to say there was a silent majority and they thought those were all like the racists or whatever.
Right.
I think that there's like everybody says there's no middle ground, but I think you hear most from the noisiest people. And then everybody else is just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yes.
And it's like, I think that there's so much ground in there where everybody is just like, I know a lot of like most people I know don't like, you know, tweet incendiary shit or like blow up somebody's Facebook page, but that's the kind of stuff that gets attention. And especially if you're scrolling through your phone and that's all you're seeing, you might just be like, oh, this is the thing.
Right. Yes.
And it's really not. And dude, and like, I don't do like political stand up. I'll talk about, so anything ends up being political. If you talk about a pro-life billboard or whatever, there's politics around that, but I'm not like, oh, fucking, you know, vote for this county auditor. I don't give, like, none of that shit. So when I started, I would do political jokes. Like I've been doing a lot. I was like George Bush jokes and fucking John McCain and that shit. But if you get political jokes that work, they don't work for long. And there's also now there's I don't know how many fucking late night shows are there. There's like you're really gonna find the angle that 15 writing rooms didn't find, and it's going to work for 3 days. Like, fuck it.
Right. And then you also have to waver where you're at, too, because Omaha is a blue town in a red state, which is just crazy anyway. So it's like you never know who's in the audience and who that's going to resound with or whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know. Like my dad's gay, and I talk about that a lot in small towns all over the place. And I'm not talking about gay rights as a political issue. I'm just like, they're gay people. Like you might be gay, your cousin might be gay. Like, and they laugh at it. And sometimes it's more of a release in the places where it's not talked about or looked at. Like, you know, just show up and joke about whatever.
So let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about some of the stuff that you have coming up this summer, because I was just on your Instagram page and you've got a lot of stuff coming up in Iowa and Kansas, other places in Nebraska. Yeah. So let's talk about booking and how your routing is going so far.
Well, it's, to use a cliche, I would call it grasping at straws. That's what I spend my afternoons doing, is reaching out to places I haven't been or places I've been before and want to go back. And yeah, but I've got a bunch of stuff I'm excited about coming up. Gary Curtis and he'd be a great guest to have on here too. We started doing this show we're calling it Blazing Mics, which is kind of a rip off of the Bumpin' Mics with David Tell and Jeff Ross. But we're doing this show where it's both of us on stage together, and then we're bringing a couple comics up. We're going to be, I don't know if this will be out by then or not, but Saturday, June 17th, we'll be at the Funny Bone in Omaha doing that. And then we're doing one in Lincoln, and we're going to go to Kansas to do it soon. But yeah, we've had a lot of fun doing that. And headed back to Wichita in June. Barleycorns, I like that a lot. Doing Barleycorns. And then we're doing a little pop-up show the guy that runs Barleycorns runs a couple other bars. We're going to do a pop-up show there. They'll help El Dorado. And getting back to Lincoln.
Nice.
Lincoln's fun. Yeah, Gotham. By the time this comes out, I'll probably already been at Gotham at Haymarket. But
Dude, I'm dropping this Wednesday.
nice.
So
like 2 days from now?
yeah, so pump it
Okay,
all
yeah,
up.
perfect. All right. So I'll be at Gotham at Haymarket, Lincoln, Friday, June 9th, Meg's, Burgers and Brews, Tabor, Iowa, Saturday, June 10th. And the following week, Thursday, the 15th, Carroll Brewing Company in Carroll did that big show at the Funny Bone.
Dude.
June 17th, and headed to Kansas after that. And, yeah, he's just trying to fill the weeks, working as much as he can.
But that's a blessing in and of itself, is to be able to do that and have all these opportunities. I know what the grind is like sitting there and emailing and following up on emails, like checking your phone or checking your messages 6 times a day for that one response. Dude.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I've got to get better. I mentally have to get better about it, because there's sometimes shows usually go well, but especially if there's like a rough show or two over a weekend, and then Monday you got to be like, all right, that will take rejection on the email and messages too. Like, already got that from people in person over the weekend. Now let's fucking do it again on Monday. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. It's all part of it. I tried to find help with it. That's fucking tough.
Yeah, that's another thing, man. It's like sometimes your best success is just handling the shit by yourself.
Yeah, because nobody else gives a fuck.
Right. Absolutely, man. Oh shit. I tell you, back in the band days, I'd have like 9 or 10 people offer to be my manager, and I'm like, you're not going to do as good of a job as I can do by myself. So see ya.
Yeah.
See ya. That's awesome. So what are your goals for like the next year? What do you want to do comedy wise in the next year?
The next year, let's see, what is it? I recorded that album like almost a year ago. So by like a year from now, I want to be getting ready to record another album.
That's amazing.
Hopefully, I'm trying to flesh out the new shit. And if it's there, great. If not, like at least want to have like most of that done. I want to keep doing like these Blaze and Mike shows with Gary. We want to set up a rotation, have those like start out in the area. We'll do Funny Bone in Omaha, hit up Wichita, Lincoln, Des Moines, start there, and then kind of branch out from that and record those. That's a good way to get content. And I start doing that shit. I don't know. I've got a long list of shit I need to do.
Absolutely. And sometimes you just got to rip off the Band-Aid and fucking do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, dude. It always makes me feel old when I go to like film a selfie video. I don't know how to fucking do that.
Right.
I don't know. And I'm like, how many chins do I have? And I just got to get over all that shit.
Just got to build yourself a creative studio with a backdrop and a light, and you're fine. Just from
that's all it takes.
Chest up. I can lose and then find 30 pounds in my sleep. So
nice. I feel the same way, man. There's some days you wake up, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So what have you learned about being in a community such as Omaha, Nebraska, being surrounded and being friends with so many other great comics such as yourself? How have you found that has propelled your vision for what you do?
Yeah, it's helped me, like just being around like funny people that are my friends. Zach Peterson would be a great guest for you to have on here. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Zach. Zach's funny as fuck. Zach, he started doing stand-up here. He moved to Chicago for a while, then LA, came back. He has one album he has out already that's on Apple Music. I think it's called Midwestern Jokes of the Americas or something. He just recorded his second album, just like seeing what Zach does, or Austin's one of the fucking funniest people I know. Gary's one of the funniest people I know. I feel bad now because I was more connected to like the comedy scene. I feel at large. I feel like a while ago because I was able to go to the open mics and stuff. Now like the fucking alarm goes off early, and I've got shows on the weekend and stuff. But I still see people coming around. Like I'm inspired by dude. There's this kid out of Lincoln named Ethan Abramson, funny as fuck. Good, goes to the club to watch this. He's like doing everything you should do. Just fucking hungry old. He'll drive 3 hours to do an 8-minute set somewhere. I'm like, it's fucking insane. I can't imagine doing that now. But like, I did that shit like back. I love that. Sometimes I think that I should probably be doing more to try to like push it all forward here. But I don't know. The internet's kind of changed all that. Like, there's opportunities everywhere, but Omaha was always in Lincoln. I don't know, it's big enough there are opportunities, that it's small enough that they're right there.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you do you feel that there's the right amount of venues right now between Omaha and Lincoln, or do you feel like there could be more?
I think Lincoln would be ripe for a comedy club.
Right.
There's this place called Laughing Skull Lounge out of Atlanta that I think it seats 30, 40 people, something. But they have people like Dana Gould. Are you familiar with Dana Gould at all? Dana Gould's funny. Yeah, Dana Gould plays there, and like they'll get people like something like if Lincoln had like a cool anchored club, that would help a ton. But I don't know. Other than that, man, Omaha venues, nobody shows up to see me there unless it's the funny person.
So what you're saying is right now, if somebody got really aggressive, got a venue set up in Lincoln, was a good promoter, it would be ripe for the picking.
Oh yeah, dude! Somewhere in the Haymarket, there's so many cool spots. Like,
I agree.
I know how local you like to get out of this, but like the Starlight Lounge in Lincoln.
Yes.
Like you walk down there, and that place is like a time cap. Like there's got to be somewhere around the Haymarket where you walk down some stairs, and there's just a cool spot where you could set up a bar that's like the ice isn't going to be making a bunch of noise when somebody's up on stage and shit. And you'd get like fucking, 40, 50 people in there. And like, if you have there, you'd get a big enough name where people would pay enough per ticket to show up and see somebody. I think something like that in Lincoln could really work.
Absolutely.
And I've talked to people in Lincoln about that before. They're like, well, how do you guarantee it's going to work? I'm like, well, you don't.
Right.
Like, there's no fucking guarantee. Nobody opens up a comedy club and they're like, this is a surefire. Let's go.
Right. You almost have to be an independent promoter, like set up in an already existing bar and build an audience for it, and then move it to a venue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that would work. Anything. I think there's a crowd in Lincoln, really, like Lincoln shows up.
Yeah.
Omaha does on occasion too. I don't know. There's just, I don't know. I feel like I kind of live in Lincoln. So I live in like far southwest Omaha. So like it takes me 10 more minutes to get to downtown Lincoln than it does to downtown Omaha. So,
dude, like I said, I moved to Lincoln in 2015, and sometimes it takes me a lot longer to get from South Lincoln to North Lincoln than it does to get from Lincoln to fucking Omaha. Granted, it's
crazy.
Granted, I look down at my speedometer and I'm going 95 when I hit Nebraska Crossing, but
yeah, you're just keeping up with the flow of traffic. Right?
Yeah, sweet. Well, man, where can everybody find you online right now?
I've got a website. It's nicksallens.com. Nicks with an S, Allens. Then I'm on social media at Nick's Allens. There's a bunch of Nick Allens out there, so I had to add an S to everything. Then Todd and Tyler, I'm up there every day. They've got their podcast is everywhere.
That's amazing, man. So my last big question that I ask every guest, and I like the answers. You would be surprised at some of the answers I get from like MMA fighters or like metal singers and such. But what's your advice for making the world a better place tomorrow than what it is today?
Oh, shit. I say don't be a dick.
Right? That's as simple as it
general, gets. It's not real deep, but there's a lot of dicks, either at a fucking store, when you're driving, or
yes,
whatever, posting shit on social media. Like, I don't know, if your goal is to, I don't know, piss somebody off. I think some people, that's not even their goal. They'll just go into it and not even fucking realize that. But
right.
I don't know. I could probably do a better job at that too.
I think we all can to a certain extent.
What would you say to that question?
Honestly, it's very similar. Mine is very complex. I make videos about it almost every single day, and sometimes I need to remind myself of it, and that's just to have a little bit more of an open mind, a little bit more patience, and realize that you're an individual, but so is everybody else. So everybody's going to have a different personality, a different viewpoint, and you got to respect our differences and celebrate our differences as much as you celebrate the things that we have in common.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be a fucking dick.
I need some patience, man. I don't have any patience.
Oh, man.
Everyone's giving me shit about that though, because there's some I don't know. I have a hard time like not nitpicking everything. I give them a comic. I don't know if that's part of it or what, but like we say respect everybody. I can't respect everybody.
Right.
Can you respect everybody?
No. That's just it. That's exactly it.
So how to know how you pick and how you choose? And you're like, oh, you're dead. Like, I'm done with you. You're like, oh, is there some redeeming something there somewhere? I don't know.
I've had the weirdest exercise the last 2 months. It's like, I have never watched a single fucking episode of Ted Lasso in my entire life. And then about a month ago, I decided, all right, I'm going to see what all this fucking hype is about. And it is like so wholesomely good. And the dude hardly ever cusses. Everybody else around him does. And I'm like, God, I need to try and be a little bit more like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I watched Ted Lasso. Then I'm a guy that's like, what's with all the fucking pop culture references? Can't you just stop?
Nick Allen, thank you very much for being on the podcast today, dude. I am glad to know you, and I think we need to stay in touch beyond this, my friend.
Yeah, definitely. Dude, you should come to Lincoln on Friday.
Dude, you know what? I might just do that. I think I have the night free Friday, so...
Hell yeah, do it, man. Gotham and Haymarket. I'll put you on the list, dude.
Right on. Nick Allen, the world's a better place with you in it, my friend.
Hey, thanks, man. This was fun.
Once again, I'd like to thank my friend Nick Allen for doing the podcast today. That was a lot of fun. I am going to try and make that show this Friday. Check him out. Like he said, www.nicksallens.com. He put S's in there so he doesn't get confused with other Nick Allens. Very clever, if you ask me. Make sure you give me a follow on all forms of social media. Check me out on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you cruise social media. Visit me, www.caughtonthemic.com. I will be looking for sponsors sometime soon. So if you own a business and would like to have your business advertised on Caught on the Mic, shoot me a message. Would love to talk to you about it. This has been Caught on the Mic with Michael Clark. I'm Michael Clark. Until next time, thank you.